Good evening. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, depending on where you are. I'm your friend, Dr. Charles Apoki. I'm your friend, Dr. Charles Apoki. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I'm your friend, Dr. Charles Apoki. I want to handle an issue so that we can leave these issues of the philosophy of the ant and move to other issues. I want to talk about church finances and contemporary realities. Church finances and contemporary realities. Money is very important, and we need to know how to handle and generate and manage church finances in the present day society. We want to know where we got it wrong. We want to know what we should do right, and we want to know where we will go from here. Please identify yourself, where you are watching from. Tell us your name and where you are watching from. I can see we have 4 people. I decided to put myself under pressure to come on live as often as possible, because there are a lot of issues to discuss. And so the first thing you must do is to subscribe to this channel. Press the notification button so that anytime we come on live, or we make any posts, you will be able to know. Thank you so much, Isaac from Abuja. Thank you so much. I'm so glad to have you here. We're looking at an issue that concerns a lot of us. Then the next thing is somebody sent me a message from Kano. He was sharing his testimony of how these videos have influenced him to generate wealth, to become a more effective entrepreneur. And he made a very powerful suggestion that we should hold a program where people can come and share testimonies of how these broadcasts have helped them. But I want to pass an information. You can make a 1-minute video, just 1-minute video, of what you have benefited from listening to this broadcast. Do a 1-minute video and send to me on +234 7213 6763 WhatsApp. And you don't need to show your identity. You don't need to write your name. Just tell us how this broadcast has influenced your life, the testimonies, and we'll compile them and maybe share them online. But it will go a long way to encourage us. So I'm going to start right away to start talking about the church and finances in contemporary times. Church finances in contemporary times. The truth of the matter is that you don't step into the same river twice. Anytime you put your feet into a river, you are stepping into a different river, because the water that will flow past is not the same water that you stepped into. The fish, the water lettuce, and whatever content in the river will have changed. So also is the society. People wish for old-time religion, it might not come. Old-time revivals might not come. So we need to know how to manage contemporary times. In 2 Kings chapter 4, from verse 1 to 7, we will find out there that the wife of the sons of the prophet, one of the wives of the sons of the prophet, cried unto Elisha, saying, my husband is dead, and you know he feared the Lord, but the creditor is coming to take my 2 sons as slaves. Then Elisha said, tell me, what can I do for you? What have you of sale value in the house? And the woman said, nothing except a jar of oil. And Elisha said, go and borrow vessels, pour the oil into those vessels, empty vessels, not a few. Said that when anyone is filled, set it aside. And after some time, the woman came to Elisha and said, the oil stopped flowing because there were no more containers to pour oil into. So Elisha said, go sell the oil, pay your debts, and live on the rest. But this was the same Elisha. When he was called into ministry, he slaughtered his 6 yokes of oxen and made a burnt sacrifice and followed his master. That means he went into full-time ministry without any business to do. But he was not telling the wife of the prophet that she should go and sell oil, meaning that that family should have been wiser and started selling oil with the anointing instead of the husband to die of poverty. Church needs business. Needs money. Ministry needs lots of money. I've been in both worlds. I've been a businessman and I've been a pastor before I became an itinerant minister, before I became a businessman and a farmer. And I'm still doing ministry by teaching you online. So what is it that has changed? There was a place where we missed it. When the Baptists came to places like Delta State or came to Nigeria, they came with social entrepreneurship. They came with schools that people attended. People paid school fees. The schools employed people. The schools trained people. The people attended their churches. And as a result, they had social influence. Thank you so much. You're watching from Kenya, my in-laws. So the Baptists had schools. Let's take the Delta Central, for example. They had Eku Baptist Hospital, one of the busiest hospitals in Delta State at that busiest hospitals in Delta State at that time. They had a nursing school there that trained nurses. So they were training nurses to improve the healthcare of the people, to employ them. They trained, people were coming there for residency. The people paid hospital bills. Then they had Baptist High School, Eku. Just the next town, Orerokbe, they had Baptist High School, Orerokbe. If you go to the right, you will see there was a Catholic hospital in Okpara. You go to Ugeli, we had St. Teresa's College, Ugeli, owned by the Catholic Church. We had Anglican Girls Grammar School, owned by the Anglican Church. We had another one at the Notre Dame College, owned by the Catholic Church. We had Anglican Girls Grammar School, Uzoro. And so we had Bishop Shanahan College, we had Ihenu Hospital, we had Ruakban Hospital in Abia State. We had several hospitals started missionaries. If you go to the north, you have the Equa Church and their farms and their hospitals. So they provided employment, they generated revenue, they employed the people. The people subsequently brought tithes to the church, gave offering, they improved the academic standard of the people, and so they made the people healthier. The church, the Catholic Church, the Equa Church, the Baptist Church, even Presbyterian Hospital, they had a holistic approach to ministry. And so the emphasis then was not on money. Fundraisings were not like the way they became later. And so people saw the church as being in partnership with society, being in partnership with government. And a lot of those who were ministers of the gospel, the Catholic priest, the Baptist minister, the Presbyterian minister, the Equa minister, they lived very simple and frugal lives that the people could emulate. If we remember Pa Elton in Elisha and several other ministers that came to serve in West Africa in particular, Mary Slessor and the rest of them, they lived simple, frugal lives, but provided social services like Hope Waddell College in Calabar was started by the Presbyterian Church. They introduced some fruits, introduced football to that part of the country. So stop the killing of twins, and they influenced society. And when society sees that the church is contributing to their welfare, the church was more willing to donate land and serve and contribute to the church and remain faithful in the church until the advent of Pentecostalism. Pentecostalism came with flamboyance. Pentecostalism came with charisma. Pentecostalism came with more emphasis on the miraculous. Pentecostalism came with the promise of what God could do for us, with little emphasis on what we needed to do. Anytime the emphasis was laid, it was in giving. It was in the sizes of the offerings we gave. It was in the tithes we needed to pay, and the fundraisings that needed to be done to build gigantic projects that hardly affected the lives of the people. When we build schools as Pentecostal churches, sometimes they became too expensive for the members to attend. That does not negate the fact that some of the expensive schools in this country are still owned by some of the older denominations that I mentioned. Be that as it may, just like the school organized by the Maris brothers in Uturu, the Maris brothers in Uturu near Okigwe, they had poultry, they had hatchery, they had tractors, they had farms, they had a workshop, they had a hospital. It was a holistic approach. They were rendering social services in that rural area. When I went to Liberia, I also saw that the Catholic Church was influencing society, particularly with amputees and all that. There was somebody in the Presbyterian Church, where Methodist Church, the leper colony at Uzuakoli, there was somebody there doing artificial limbs for people. So they contributed to society. Now, when it came to the advent of Pentecostalism, there was so much flamboyance, so many big cedar cathedrals, and very little influence on the lives of the people. The resultant effect of people buying private jets, buying big bulletproof cars, and a display of flamboyance that our God is not a poor God, which is a true statement. But the man that made that statement provided social services, built a hospital, established schools, rendered services. So it was when a truth is stretched too far, and when a statement is taken from the original source and travels far, it becomes adulterated. So there was this grandiosity, competition in the sizes of cathedrals without commensurate contribution to society. It has now led to criticism and has now led to donor fatigue. A lot of people are not interested in giving in church any longer. The resultant effect is that finances have become scarce in some churches, particularly some Orthodox churches that decided to copy this form of Pentecostalism that emphasize prosperity, giving, sowing seed, and all that. So there's been a donor fatigue. And then some individuals came in who were critical of the payment of tithes. Instead of the church to settle down and explain to them scripturally, they started heaping curses on them. Until today, none of them has died. The resultant effect is that a lot of people stopped paying tithes. If you add to it the sexual escapades of some of our pastors, flamboyant pastors, and their misbehavior with other people's wives and young girls, in addition to their flamboyance, the love men had towards giving to God reduced. So what do we need to do? Somebody called me a few days back that people are leaving church, young men are leaving church and going into internet fraud, and that I needed to come and speak on the need for revival. And I told him that the issue is not revival. The issue is that we promised our young people a lot of things, financial breakthroughs, and they didn't see it. That's why they migrated into society to go and look for those breakthroughs. So what do churches need to do? Just like Elisha asked that woman, the wife of the prophet, what have you of sale value? What do churches have to sell? I remember challenge bookshops. So we need to open schools that are affordable for the generality of our members and our society. If we open schools that are affordable, I run an affordable school. Children of mechanics, drivers, petty traders are there, but the standard is quite high. The environment is very good. I employ qualified teachers. So if we have schools, since government schools are not functional, if we have schools that are affordable by the generality of the people, and we have people from our churches, we have a lot of graduates that are unemployed that we can employ and pay well. If we have quite a sizable number of learners in our schools, it will be a win-win situation. The society will be happy, our citizens, our members will be employed. So when I ran the Church of God Mission School at Aba, in 2 years, it was richer than the church. I'm talking from experience. It was richer than the church. And so churches can run schools. Churches can have printing presses that will print their materials. The Anglican Church in Ugili here has a printing press. The Anglican Church in Ugili here has a diocesan fish pond. They rear fish and they sell to their members. The Anglican Church in Ugili here has a shopping mall that they rent to their members and their members do businesses there. The Anglican Church in Ugili here, they are women, they have event centers. They have about 3 halls in the Owodawanri compound there. These 3 halls are virtually booked from weekend to weekend throughout the year, and you don't pay small money, and you can't blame them. So if these halls are generating revenue, the printing press is generating revenue, the fish pond generates revenue, the shopping mall generates revenue, the pressure on the church and the members will reduce. I saw the God's Kingdom Society at Warri, along Warri-Sapele Road near Igbudu Market. They have schools, nursery, primary, and secondary schools. They have a pharmacy. They have a laboratory. And then they have a hospital. I suspect they have a printing press. And they might have a farm. So you see, the church has what can generate revenue. What can generate revenue? I know a church that has a water factory that produces water. And so the members buy water. The churches can establish bakeries. When you establish bakeries, your members will buy your bread and you will produce good bread. When I was in South Sudan, in Juba, there was a restaurant run by a Catholic charity inside a Catholic organization. And I was going there to eat peanut soup, that's groundnut soup. So they had a restaurant. If we have a poultry, we have a piggery, we have a fish farm, we have vegetable farm, we can run a restaurant that will sell food that will be relatively cheaper than outside and better prepared, and it will generate revenue. And Mr. Felix, thank you so much. I'm watching from Germany. On Goma, Rose, you're watching from Kenya. So our churches must not just be seen as centers for collecting offerings and tithes, but they must employ our people. They must provide services for the society. They must generate income. If they generate, Kenneth Bisson, thank you so much. If they generate income, the misbehavior we are seen by so many pastors in trying to swindle the people of money by preaching rubbish will reduce to a very large extent. And the people will be more willing to come to church and have a sense of belonging. Let me say another thing. In Nigeria, the trend is to have prayer camps. Prayer camps all over the place, large expanses of land acquired for prayers. And I always wonder, how often do we go there to pray? How often do we hold conventions on those land? What percentage of the land are we effectively using? Those large prayer camps, we can do animal husbandry. When I went to Kenya, some families owned cows. In fact, the milk I drank in one household was from their cow. So if families can own cows in Kenya, why can't the church own cows? Own cows in those prayer camps. The prayer camps all over the Nigeria will constitute a large ranch if cumulatively. And the Gudala cow gets pregnant for only 9 months and will produce 1 calf. So if we have cows in all the Anglican prayer camps, in all the Pentecostal prayer camps, and the Catholic prayer camps, and we secure them and we produce cows, the cows we produce in the southern part of Nigeria will be so cheap that the Fulani herdsman won't need to come and fight us. And this, because Lord Lugard wrote, I know what I'm talking about. Lord Lugard wrote in his book, The Dual Mandate, that in 1922, that it was because of the amalgamation of Nigeria that the Fulanis can now come to eastern Nigeria and rear cows. So before amalgamation, the Fulanis didn't bring cows to southern Nigeria. We had our own cows, our own short-horn cows. We can do poultry. We can do poultry in these big prayer camps and sell eggs and sell broilers, have freezers. People can come, the nearby communities can come and buy broilers from us. We can have tilapia farms. Tilapia is the poultry of the river. We can have tilapia, big tilapia farms that can produce tilapia, and the protein needs of our environment will be met. There are so many things we need to do to generate revenue. In agriculture alone, piggery, cattle rearing, poultry, goat farms. I've been seeing big goat farms in Kenya and Uganda run by families. We can have vegetable farms. We can have plantain plantations. We can have palm plantations. And posting a pastor to a rural environment would not negate his anointing. There will be so much to do, so much wealth to generate. That is one thing the church has not done in Africa. And recently, I was telling churches that you can organize cooperatives. And one of my friends picked up the idea. We can organize cooperatives. If you take the men's fellowship of a church, for example, that has 1,000 members, if 1,000 members contribute 1,000 naira every week to their cooperative, it will amount to 52 million in a year. If they do that for 1 year, it will be 104 million in a year. If they take that money and build a hostel in a university town, they will be generating so much money that they can do missionary work without disturbing the members. They will issue certificates to the members of the cooperative that even if they died, their children will take over the shares of their father. And they will pay tithes to the central body of the church. That's just 1,000 men. And there are many denominations that have more than 1,000 men. If they have 2,000 men, that's 104 million in a year. In 10 years, is 10 years is nearly 1 billion that they will be having. Imagine 1 billion well managed. So what are we talking about? Those men with 1 billion, they can open a petrol station somewhere in front of, buy a petrol station that will sell petrol at normal prices with good measurements, and people will patronize and they will generate revenue. So what are we talking about? Why this emphasis on giving, and people are tired in many of these churches. People have stopped giving. People have stopped coming to churches because they've made vows and they couldn't pay. Each guest speaker that comes will raise money. I told people nowadays, I will come and preach, but I won't raise money. I will not raise money. I will not raise money. I want to raise men. So this pressure of church finance in contemporary times, it has to be ameliorated by being a productive church. The Catholic Church has guest houses. In Benin, Bishop Kelly Center is a Catholic guest house. When you go there, you won't see internet fraudsters. I was talking about the Bishop Kelly Center in Benin along the Kenwa Road. They have a conference center. I spoke to managers of the then PHC and the Electricity Company of Nigeria, then from Ondo, Ekiti, Delta, and those states there. And they had guest houses there. So we thank you, great UI, great. So we need to start thinking about what can generate revenue. We have bought warehouses and bought factories and turned them to churches. But let's start creating employment in the church. Let's start creating employment in the church by rendering social services. In fact, we can open microfinance banks that are well managed. Open microfinance banks, the cooperatives I talked about, can metamorphose into microfinance banks. And so our members have easy access to loans to run their businesses. So today, you're either in FULL time ministry, full-time, or you're in FOOL time ministry. The choice is yours. And like in my book, The Pastor and His Finances, pastors and their wives and their families must learn to find something to do to augment the allowance that is given to them instead of depending on tithe and offerings and prophesying what God did not tell them. I have offended people by this broadcast. I've ruffled feathers, but I don't really care. I've said the truth. Those who have ears, let them hear. I will round up by saying this. The Catholic Church in Germany, has a great percentage of the bed spaces in Germany. So if you count bed spaces in Germany, a great percentage, more than 50%, is owned by the Catholic Church. Some of the 10 biggest hospitals in the United States are owned by faith-based organizations in the United States. Faith-based organizations. To surprise you to know that Harvard was named after a pastor who donated his library. So if in the United States and in Germany, the church takes a great part of the healthcare delivery system, then our churches in Africa must arise and take up more responsibilities instead of competing with who has the biggest cathedral. This phone alone has more than 45,000 followers. Not to talk of those who are not following me, who watch my videos. So this phone is bigger than a cathedral. So we must wake up and face contemporary times and know what to do. I remain your friend. Whether you are angry with me or not, Dr. Charles Apoki. Please share this video. It will get to the hands of people who are willing to take decisions, who are in decision-making positions in our churches, so that we can change our orientation from being consumer churches to being churches that are productive, churches that are financially independent and financially free. If we do that, our pastors will not run after politicians. I don't run after politicians because I am financially independent and I have financial freedom. God bless you. I remain your friend, Dr. Charles Apoki. As I said, subscribe to this channel. And if this channel has blessed you, do a 1-minute video and send to me via WhatsApp at +234 705213. Good night. God bless you.